Good afternoon, everybody. Waiting for everybody to come in. We are live. Don't see anybody yet, but it looks like they're coming in. Okay, here we go. Welcome to Real Talk with Mary Grace. I'm Mary Grace. You are on Mary Grace Media. We are streaming live onto YouTube and Facebook and Clout Hub. So it looks like people are coming in. Please say hello as you come in. And as you're coming in, please be sure and follow and like and subscribe and turn on your notifications and all of those things. And as you come in on Facebook, please share this link into groups that you belong to. That really helps us get around the algorithm, and that helps us to get the show to as many places as possible without spending money on Facebook. They always want us to promote and spend money and run ads, and we are not going to do that because we're just not. So please do share it into groups. If you belong to a big group, it really makes a huge difference when you do that. So thank you. And then if you're on YouTube, if you are in other groups that allow you to share links, for example, on Telegram, please do that. Just make sure you're not spamming other people's chats or channels. Just be respectful. You can send the links also to private messages and to emails and text of people that you know. So let's get the word out as far as we can to as many places as we can. As many of you know, Periscope and Twitter took my accounts down, and that's where I had the most followers. But we are growing here on YouTube and Clout Hub and on Facebook. So thank you everybody who's helping grow the channel. If you want to know how to find my links, you can also go to my website, marygracemedia.com, and you can click on my social media links there. You can also click on support. So if you want to partner with my channel, you can do that through clicking my support links. And I thank you for everybody who gave money on Venmo. They don't send me notifications, so I missed it, but thank you. I really do appreciate that. I'm just actually getting some more studio equipment that is going to allow me to up my game with broadcasting, which is great. So somebody said they missed me on Facebook. I typically broadcast 4 days a week, and I don't usually broadcast through the weekend. Sometimes I do walk and talks. Sometimes I do live streams when I'm out in public, but I just sort of took it easy this weekend. I think a lot of people were trying to rest up. And so that was me. I was trying to rest up. It's been a really crazy 5 years. And just like the president, I'm trying to get some rest too, because I think that our fight, I think we're just in a lull, and we're in a good place to regroup. Because if you're like me and other people who've been really deep in this fight, it feels like we've been campaigning for 5 years, and that's a long time. So we've been in the trenches, fighting and doing the best we can, and it's not over. And I know that most of you know that, and so I'm here to bring a word of encouragement today, because I want people to really understand that it's not over. And I don't have I don't have any doubt. Let's just put it that way. I don't know the ins and outs. I don't have a super secret inside source that's telling me what is going on with the president specifically. But what I do know for sure is that it's not over, and that our president Trump did not just walk away without a fight. So that in spite of what your eyes are seeing right now, that is not the case. And I want to remind you, based on everything that you've ever heard me say about him, is that quiet Trump is scary Trump if you're the deep state. So I'm going to repeat that. If you are deep state, if you think that you got away with stealing America and putting the entire world under your thumb, you you know exactly what I'm talking about, and that is that quiet Trump is scary Trump. So just keep that in mind, right? There's a reason, I think, besides the fact that he got banned, there's a reason that he's quiet. There's a reason that he's not on Twitter. There's a reason that he's not messaging you in another platform. So I want you to think about that, because if you've noticed, there's a whole bunch of news coming out about the person that they installed in the White House, and the people who voted for him, or the people who supported him, are already starting to have buyer's remorse. And if our president was out there tweeting and talking and holding press conferences, uh, who do you think the attention would be on? Would it be on the person they installed in the White House, or would it be on our rightfully elected president? So think about that. There's always strategy in everything that our president is doing, and that hasn't changed. That didn't change when he got on Air Force One, last Wednesday and went to Mar-a-Lago. So just keep that in mind. I really want you to have courage. I want you to really use this time to ground yourself in your faith and to refresh and get restored and to understand who you are and where you draw your strength from in the fight to come, because we do have a lot of a fight ahead of us to really help people. There are a lot of people are going to be shocked, and they're going to be needing help. They're going to be needing understanding and compassion when they realize what they've chosen. And so, I just wanted to encourage you with that. Something that came up the other day when I was just, taking downtime, and I was just trying to hear from God about some things. He brought a couple of things to mind, and that is this. I was listening to somebody who was talking about how a lot of these congressmen, the people in the Senate, people in government, one of the reasons that they don't do the right thing is because they actually get compromised. They get put into a really bad situation. They get cornered and blackmailed and threatened. And it was actually Johnny Enlow who was talking about that. He's a pastor and teacher. And this is something that I've touched on before. And if you don't know what I'm understanding, let me give you or what I'm talking about. Let me give you an example. So let's say that you get elected to Congress and you have run on a MAGA platform, a pro-life MAGA platform, local jobs, American made, all of the things that we value. And then a vote comes up in Congress for something that goes against your values and against what you promised your constituents. Well, imagine that somebody else in Congress comes to you, or a lobbyist, or somebody very powerful comes to you and says, "Hey, we need you to vote this way. We're going to deposit $10,000 into an account for you that no one can trace. And if you don't do this, just remember that we know where your family lives. We know where your kids go to school. We know where your wife does yoga. We know who she meets for coffee every day after yoga, et cetera, et cetera." And so you're a brand new congressman, and you're in Washington, D.C., and your family is 1,000 miles away. And they've just threatened you, they've just cornered you. What happens? What happens? So this is something that we're learning about, that some of us have known about. Some people get compromised in even more horrendous ways, and some people get compromised through their own choices. They go to places that put them in compromising situations. They make deals that compromise them. But the point is that when they get into Congress, the decisions that they make are made from a different standpoint than when they were campaigning. We see that happen over and over again. And so I started thinking about this, and I was thinking about what we've seen in Washington and in these state legislatures and in all of the places where we've been sorely disappointed about what people have been doing and the way they've been acting. And so the Lord gave me, he gave me a few talking points, and that is the 4 C's. And when it comes to government, what I've seen and leadership, what he showed me is that there are 4 different categories, different types of people that are in leadership in our government. And that is the 4 C's. So you have the cowards, You have corrupt, you have cornered, and you have courageous. So write that down. Coward, corrupt, cornered, courageous. So think about that. Some of the people that we've seen are just cowards. Some of them value their reputation more than they value the Constitution and the oath that they took. And we saw that with some of the state legislatures, that even when presented with the evidence of the voter fraud, even when presented with all of the compelling documentation and affidavits and all of those things, those people still wouldn't do the right thing. And they really probably didn't even have a very specific reason. They just didn't have the backbone. They didn't have the courage. They're cowards. So we've seen that. The other one is corrupt. We've seen a lot of corruption. And these are people who have willingly, intentionally, knowingly taken a path of dishonesty and lawlessness. And we see that every day. We see that with Nancy Pelosi. We've seen that, for example, if you watched some of the hearings of Antrim County, Michigan, and you saw the way those people acted and the way that they treated the Republicans, it was shocking. And the corruption was just really right there in your face. And in many cases, they don't even try to hide it. And we've seen that all over Twitter. We've seen it in Congress. We've seen it in the Senate. These are people who will, well, okay, Clintons, for example, they're corrupt. They don't even pretend not to be. And they laugh in your face and they get away with it because they have corrupted or co-opted everyone else around them. So they've corrupted the courts, the judicial system, the attorneys general, all the prosecutors, all of this. And so they form a ring of corruption. That is pretty obvious. And I think one of the most shocking things that we've seen is that there's more corruption than we actually realized. And a lot of that corruption is from the Republican Party, not just the Democrats. It crosses the aisle. And so give me some comments or a thumbs up if what I'm saying is resonating with you. I'm just trying to give you a groundwork for what I'm going to talk about next. The next thing is cornered. Okay. This is an important one to understand because I just explained it. If you are a young father and husband or wife, and you've gone to Congress and you get there and your family is 1,000 miles away and they're doing their thing and they didn't move to Washington with you, or even if they are, 10 miles away, they're not with you, and you're in Congress and you're trying to do the right thing. You're trying to work with integrity and you're trying to vote based on what you promised your constituents, and you get faced with an offer you can't refuse, which means that they're threatening your family. So that is a situation that on principle you or I would say no way. I would not bow. I would not bow to that pressure. I would do the right thing. And however, anybody who has a family knows that you can't say what you would do if they showed you video of stalking your wife, walking your baby down the street, and they showed you that they know exactly, where your wife goes all day long, that they're following her. Think about that. And as a man, you want to protect your family. That's your allegiance is to God and to your family and to your country. But where do you draw that line? How do you make that decision? And so you're cornered. Are you tracking with me? So we see people who've made these decisions, and in some cases they make this decision because they're cornered, and that's a really bad place to be in. And we have to be very careful about judging them, and because we don't know. Do we know for sure that some of the people who we are calling corrupt are corrupt? I don't know. That's a good question. That's something that God knows. And so he judges the motives of man's hearts. Um, so so think about that. The fourth category that I have is before I go on, I'll give you an example. Millie just put something in the chat on YouTube. She said uh, Brian Kemp, the governor of Georgia, his daughter's boyfriend was working on Kelly Loeffler's campaign, and he died in a horrific accident that many people think was actually not an accident. They think it was a message that was being sent to Brian Kemp to keep his mouth shut and not order a special session or and do the right thing in Georgia. We don't know for sure. Do I believe that Brian Kemp is corrupt on some level? I do. But could he be corrupt and cornered? Yes, because what happens is when you open the door to corruption, when you open the door to sin, right? The devil is crouching at the door to see whom he may devour. So when you crack that door open just a little bit, then you're actually putting yourself and your family in a position to be cornered by people that would take advantage of your indiscretion. Are you following me? So I think that that is important to understand that we have to be very careful because the Bible says be wise, not unwise, and that includes the way we act and the associations that we have and the deals that we make and even financial dealings, personal dealings, relationships, things like that. So this is a time to really examine where you are, especially if you're thinking of running for office or of doing something that that puts you in a position of influence. And so think about that. Anytime you're in leadership, anytime you open the door to indiscretion, you're actually positioning yourself to be cornered down the road when somebody has something on you. And so it's possible to be both corrupt and cornered, and they sort of go hand in hand sometimes, not always, like I described. Some of these people are innocent and they've been cornered because their families are threatened. So the next category is courageous. So we have the four C's I'm going to review. We have coward, corrupt, cornered, courageous. So courageous is a category that we love, and courageous is what constitutes the fabric of the American spirit. And that's what we've seen in our president. That's what we've seen in a lot of people who have been at the forefront of this movement to restore rule of law and freedom in the United States and around the world. We've seen that in certain people who stood up courageously to reject the votes, for example, on the 6th. And so, there are people of courage who are in this movement and they're not backing down. And I think that it's worth noting that when the word courage, the root word of that actually is heart. It's the Latin word and the French word cœur, which means heart. And so we know that what is in the heart is actually reveals who the person is. And I think it's interesting to think about that because this is a time when we are really being called to dig deep and to know who we are and to make a decision if we are going to be courageous. And in a lot of cases right now, it takes courage just to stand up and to say, I know what this looks like. And it looks like everybody got it wrong and that our guy lost and that he let us down or that we've been had and that evil did prevail after all, in spite of all the evidence. And to stand in the face of that and say, it's not over. And I will not acknowledge the person that they put in the White House. I will not acknowledge the person that they installed in that office. And I will continue to stand and I will continue to fight and I will stand on the side of truth. That takes courage. And I have a good example of what I have a picture that I pulled off of my Facebook from a few years ago, and I wanted to show you this because I think it really exemplifies where we are at this moment, where many of us are. Because I think that there's a lot of ways this picture can be interpreted, but I want to show it to you. Okay, this is really wild, and this is a real picture. This is somebody that I know who's in this picture. Okay, so take a look at this. All right, you see this? Let me just get it right in the right position. It's hard to do things backwards. Can everybody see it? So this is a picture that was taken in Hawaii. It's at Waimea Bay, and the lifeguard is somebody that I know. Okay, you see that? Get a good look at it. So that's the shore break. And I think that's a really interesting picture because yeah, now it's an optical illusion, and it's very interesting. So there is danger, but it looks worse than it is because of the way the beach slopes down. And that spot is known for the shore break, and it can drag people back into the water. But here's the thing. So the lifeguard, Kainoa, he's telling her, he's like, when the water's here, you want to be here, right? And it's important to know that. However, from our perspective and from the perspective of the photographer who took that, there's a little bit of an illusion. And this is what I wanted to talk to you about, because if you don't understand everything that's going on, if you don't understand the backstory, if you don't understand the truth about what that wave is going to do and where the photographer is and the perspective of everything that's happening there in the picture, it looks like the wave is going to envelop him and her and the photographer, doesn't it? I'll show you again. What do you think? Doesn't it look like everybody in this situation is toast? That they're going to be taken out? What do you think? Isn't that what it looks like? That's what it looks like, right? But I know, because I've been there, I know that once you have more information and you understand how this works, that they were okay, that they didn't get enveloped by that wave, because I understand how it works. And as believers, we find ourselves in a similar situation, because everything that we're seeing with our eyes is saying it's over. Run. Run the other way. America is doomed. Do you understand? You with me? If we don't understand everything that's going on, and if we don't have wisdom and faith and a grounding in the truth, then we would look at this situation that we're in, just like this wave, and we think it's over. We're finished. Run. Run and hide. And some people have already done that. Some people have disengaged. Some people have said, this is what I was living for. I'm out. But I'm here to tell you that the story is far from over. And I've been thinking about this because what we're seeing right now is we are seeing a lot of people who are looking at the situation from face value, and they're running away. And they're thinking that it's doomed. They're thinking that God has abandoned us, that our country is, and the world is completely effed, right? And that there's no hope. And so, again, if you're a bystander and you're looking at a picture like that, like I just showed you, and you don't know the truth, then you're going to think it's all over. And so, how do we handle this? And what examples do we have? Because if it's not obvious to you by now, it should be starting to be very clear that God is going to show up in a very mighty way. And that the truth is, this is God's battle to be won. And I can't help but think about the story of Gideon. This is a story that I've talked about before in the past, and I'm going to talk about it again because, in many ways, we find ourselves in that situation. Do you all know the story of Gideon? Do you know that story? He was an Israelite, and he was from the tribe of Manasseh, and he and his countrymen were being decimated by the enemy, the Midianites, who were destroying everything that the Israelites tried to do. And it got so bad, it got so bad that Gideon was trying to thresh the wheat and he was hiding in the winepress to do it. And if you know anything about threshing wheat, you know that you have to have a lot of space and that you thresh the wheat in the wind so that the chaff blows away. And so, when you're in a wine press, you're not really in a good place because you're 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 trying to do something that requires air and wind and circulation, and there isn't any, because it's like a vat. And so Gideon was in the wine press and he was really afraid. And if you think about it, you know, the patriots have been afraid and a lot of people have gone into hiding. And so we're not called to do that. And when the angel appeared to Gideon, he said to Gideon, "The Lord is with you, O valiant warrior." That's exactly what the angel said. And Gideon, it doesn't say this in the scripture, but what I picture is Gideon going like this, looking behind him to see who the angel was talking to. Because Gideon didn't have that belief. He didn't believe, based on everything his eyes were telling him, that God could prevail. He actually believed that God had abandoned the Israelites, his people, and he believed that he was nothing, that he had nothing to contribute, nothing to give, and that there was no way he could win. He said that. He said, "Who am I? I'm the least. My family's the least of the tribes, and I'm the youngest son." And so he actually put God to a lot of tests. And the thing that I think is really interesting is that if you think about if you think about the situation we're in now, Gideon. One of the things that Gideon said to to the Lord, this is what he said. He said, "If the Lord is with us, why then has this happened to us? And where are all his miracles which our fathers told us about, saying, 'Did not the Lord bring us up from Egypt?' But now the Lord has abandoned us and given us into the hand of Midian." So think about this. If God is with us, then why did he allow that usurper to be installed in the White House? Why did he allow the courts to refuse to hear the evidence? Why did he allow the state legislatures to wimp out? Why did he allow us to be in this situation where evil is making edicts from the White House on day one, day two, day three, that are destroying jobs and people and life? Why? Where is God? If God is with us, then why is this happening? Does that sound familiar? Because I've been hearing a lot of that. And so it's interesting because God doesn't really, he isn't moved by that, right? And God says, "I will be with you and you shall defeat Midian." That's all he says. And so it's interesting because Gideon is charged with with taking out the Midianites. But the first thing that God has him do is very symbolic. Okay? So he doesn't just send him out to assemble the army. God doesn't assemble the army right away. He doesn't solve the bigger problem right away. You know what he does? Does anybody remember the story? God exposes their false gods. He exposes the paper tiger that is the Midianites. What do I mean by that? Well, the first thing that Gideon has to do, that God tells him to do, is um, he says, uh, he says, um, this is what he says to Gideon: take your father's bull and a second bull 7 years old, and pull down the altar of Baal, which belongs to your father, and cut down the Asherah that is beside it. So the first thing that God tells Gideon to do is to cut down the false gods in the middle of the city. Isn't that interesting? And one of the things that is important to understand about that is the Asherah is actually the goddess that they would sacrifice children to. Are you seeing some parallels here? And so the first thing that and so God goes on to say, build an altar to the Lord your God on the top of this stronghold in an orderly manner, and take a second bull and offer a burnt offering with the wood of the Asherah, which shall be cut down. And so Gideon goes and does this. He does it at night because he's afraid, and so he brings his friends and they do it at night. And so the next day, when the people wake up and they see that the Asherah is gone, they find out that Gideon did it, and they're really mad, of course, because it's their idols, it's their high places. So think about the mainstream media. Think about what's happening right now with social media. Think about everything that you're seeing. I think it's pretty safe to say that the idol of media, the idol of the lies that they have been pushing for so long, is being torn down because people have abandoned these outlets in the millions. And this is important because think about Fox News. Think about how high they were and how low they've gone. Think about Twitter. Nobody is on Twitter anymore. Think about these high places that have been used. I actually think it's good that the president is off Twitter because it's going to it's the end of Twitter in my opinion. And so are you tracking with me? So this is really interesting, isn't it? And so then it's kind of cool because God because the elders want to kill Gideon. They want to do away with him. And this is what they say to his father Joash. They say, the men of the city said to Joash, bring out your son that he may die. For he has torn down the altar of Baal, and indeed he has cut down the Asherah which was beside it. Isn't it interesting? Because think about this. What does the left want to do right now? What do the Democrats want to do to the people who are speaking truth? They want to put Trump supporters in re-education camps. They want to destroy your life. They want you dead. They really do. And the thing is, our God is with us. It's not going to work. They can't destroy us. And this is what Joash says to them. He says, "Who will contend for Baal, or will you deliver him? Whoever will plead for him shall be put to death by morning. If he is a god, let him contend for himself, because someone has torn down his altar." And so basically, the father says, "Look, if Baal really is a god, then he can defend himself. Why do you need to put together? Why do you need to put my son to death? Because Baal should have been able to do that if he had the strength." And so think about what he's saying. Think about these false idols. Think about the high places of media that have come against the patriots. If they're so powerful, then why are they threatening you? If for example, the insider military movement that has gotten people to think more and to research and to really wake up, that has been responsible for the Great Awakening, if the media is so bad, right? Why are they still threatening them? Why are they still trying to take them out? Why are they still trying to take us out? Why? Because they don't have the power, you know? And so think about that. Now, the next thing that happens I think is really interesting. So after Gideon does this, God actually tells him to go. They send out messengers, and Gideon gets all of the he thousands of men come. It's like 32,000 come to fight with him. And it's kind of exciting, right? I mean, little Gideon, who's supposedly the youngest and the least effective, right? He puts out the call, and 32,000 men show up to fight. And the crazy thing, though, is that God says it's too many people. They're scared. The people that are with you are scared, so you have to send some away. And so Gideon says, "Well, okay, everybody, anybody that's afraid, go home." And so 22,000 people left out of the 32,000. So more than a third of his people left. Can you imagine if you rally a group of people to do a job and more than like two-thirds of them leave? You're like, okay, we're gonna win this, huh? Right? And so then the crazy thing about this is that God says to Gideon, he says, actually, there's still too many people. Can you imagine if you're Gideon and you've taken this step of faith and you're all in? You're like, okay, I'm ride or die, God, let's do this, right? I mean, Gideon needed a lot of signs, but at this point, he's committed. And so God says to him, "There's too many people." And this is interesting because this is the part where that comes back to courage and also of developing wisdom and understanding and knowing how to fight, because we're moving into a time when we need to fight smarter, especially in the spirit. And so this is what happens. So God says to Gideon, "The people are still too many. Bring them down to the water, and I will test them." And the word in the Hebrew there, it actually is like a refiner's fire, the word that they use for test. He says, "I'll test them for you there." And here's how God is going to test them. "Therefore, it shall be that he of whom I say to you, this one shall go with you, he will go. But every one of whom I say to you, this one shall not go, he won't go." And so God is going to choose. That's another important point. God chooses the people that fight alongside you. Think about that. And here's how God distinguished between the people who had the wisdom, who were fighters, who were ready for this fight, and those who weren't. He said, so he brought down the people, and God said, "You shall separate everyone who laps the water with his tongue, as a dog laps, as well as everyone who kneels to drink." And so it says, the number of those who lapped, putting their hand to their mouth, was 300. But all the rest of the people kneeled to drink water. So he's got 10,000. He takes them to drink. Only 300 pass the test. They bring the water up. Why is that? I know some of you know this story, but a lot of people are new to it. So, why did they do that? This is because this allowed them to see all around them. If you put your face down to the water and drink straight from the water, you can't see anything around you. So, you're vulnerable. You leave your flank completely vulnerable. Think about that. And so, this is important because the Lord weeded out the people that could actually be a hindrance. Because think about this, if you have an army of 10,000, but only 9,700 of, or but 9,700 of them don't have the wisdom even to protect their own backside, how are they going to be useful in a fight? You understand? So God narrowed it down to 300. And the 300 had the situational awareness and they knew what it is that they needed to do to protect themselves and everyone around them. And so I think this is critical because, and this is an important point that I want you to take away, because uh, okay, because um because God is showing you who has your six. He's going to show you because the fight that we're coming into, think about the brainwashing that people have been subjected to. Think about how many people have believed a lie for so long. Think about the programming that has gone on for so long. Think about the family members, think about the friends who are, um, think about the family and friends that you know that are highly educated but are completely programmed. Um, this is a big deal because you and those around you that God is putting around you are called to walk into this fight and to help restore and to take back what looks like it has been stolen. You see what I mean? Um, Millie, I'm sending you a text message. There's something going on in YouTube I need you to deal with, or JC. Um, okay, hold on. Okay, it looks like I've got some people spamming the chat in YouTube. Okay, so this is the situation that we're faced with. Okay, and so the story of Gideon is a beautiful story, and I encourage you to go and read it, and you can find it in Judges chapter 6. That's right after the book of Joshua. Judges chapter 6, verses. Sorry, it starts in Judges chapter 6, verse 11, but it goes all the way through to through chapter 7, so 6 and 7. That's the gist of it. But the story is really good because God brings the victory. So first he has him take down the high places. Then he has him narrow down his army to a very, very small amount. Then he actually gives Gideon reassurance. And so he's teaching you how to listen and how to strategize. And then he's teaching you how to listen so that you'll know where it is that he's directing you. But then the other thing that's really cool is that he told Gideon the strategy, and this is where I think it's important to understand too, um, is that he gave him the strategy, and the strategy was really weird. It wasn't it wasn't what humans would think of. And so think about what you're seeing right now. All of the strategy that everybody thought was going to work to solve this problem with the election didn't um, it didn't work, right? Those things didn't come to pass. And so in the natural, it's really easy to think that God forgot about us and that he didn't keep his promise and that we lost. However, what we don't know is that we don't know the strategy that God has given to Trump and his team, do we? Nor should we know. And here's the thing, the only people who knew the strategy that God gave to Gideon were Gideon and the couple of faithful men around him who then helped execute the strategy. I'm going to say that again. The only people who knew the strategy that God gave to Gideon that actually resulted in victory were Gideon and a couple of his very closest uh, leaders around him. That's how you win decisive battles. You don't win by announcing your plans and your strategy to everyone. The chat is extremely quiet. I don't know where everybody is on Facebook, but I hope this is resonating with people. It's important because I hear people telling me every day, you know, it didn't work. I don't know what they're going to do. I want to know what they're going to do. I want to know the plans. I want to know. I want to know exactly what is going to play out. And and I see all of these people dropping all of this information in Telegram and on social media, and everybody has intel and everybody has an idea of how he's going to do this, and everybody has their opinion, and everybody has a super secret source, and they're listening to these YouTube videos, and they're listening to people who are telling them how this is going to play out. But that um, the truth is, go back to Gideon. God narrowed down his army to 300 people, and then he told Gideon, here's the plan. And then he told Gideon how to execute the plan. And Gideon told that plan to two or three close advisors. And that was one battle. That was one battle. What we're looking at right now is a battle to save all of humanity. And so it's so important to understand this because, people are running around like chickens with their head cut off, just grasping for information. And there are people who are deceivers and liars who are more than willing to come in and fill that gap and to feed you things that they think you want to hear. They're happy to take your attention and to take your attention off of God. And so the thing that I'm hearing from God right now is that the battle strategy has already been conceived. The battle strategy has already been given to our president and to his advisors, and it's not over. And so he wants you to understand that, and he wants to show us the story of Gideon as an example. So I'm going to tell you how they ended up winning this battle, and it was crazy because it wasn't anything that you would have thought of. Because if you're being harassed and and you can't win a battle and God sends you an army, you would think, okay, we just need to arm ourselves and go in and take out the opposing army and be done with it. But that's not how God did it. Um, God actually used a different strategy. And so here's what God said to them. Okay. Um, so God said, um, he showed Gideon how it was going to work out. And so then so Gideon goes back and he says, everybody get up. The Lord has given the camp of Midian into your hands. But he still didn't tell them how it was going to play out. They just had to listen and follow orders. Okay. And so he told them all to get up. And then he said, look at me and do likewise. And behold, when I come to the outskirts of the city, do as I do. That's it. That's all he told them. Just do what I tell you. And then he says, when I and all who are with me blow the trumpet, then you also blow the trumpets all around the camp and say, for the Lord and for Gideon. Think about that battle strategy. Okay, everybody, let's go. Okay, when I blow the trumpet, you blow the trumpet. How many people have said, he just needs to take in the army and just take them out, and we need to have public executions, we need to have all this stuff, and we need to just round them up and throw them in prison, and that may be a strategy. I'm not saying it's not, but is there anyone out there who is who's ever thought about the fact that the strategy may be something that nobody's ever thought of? I'm just throwing that out there. Okay. So here you've got this leader that God has placed in position, and he's picked out the 300 bravest and smartest people. And then the leader looks at them and says, okay, guys, I'm going to blow a trumpet, and then you're going to blow your trumpets. Just put yourself in that position. You're just going, huh, it's not exactly what I thought was going to happen. Not exactly how I thought this was going to go. And so then you have a choice. Do you stay and follow God, or do you oh, or do you leave? Right? Do you leave and say, this isn't how I thought this was going to go? I think my plan is better. Okay, so this is how it goes. So Gideon and the 100 men who were with him came to the outskirts of the camp at the beginning of the middle watch, when they had just posted the watch, and they blew the trumpets and smashed the pitchers that were in their hands. So there's something about the pitchers that's important. So listen. They blew the trumpets, they smashed the pitchers. Okay. Um, when the three companies blew the trumpets and broke the pitchers they held the torches in their left hands and the trumpets in their right hands for blowing, and cried, "A sword for the Lord and for Gideon." So they had these pitchers with torches in them, and they broke the pitchers, and the torches were lit up. And so Gideon and the army basically surrounded the Midianites. They blew trumpets, and then all of a sudden they revealed the torches. And it was a strategy that nobody expected, but it terrified the Midianites because it was unconventional warfare. Okay. Um, and each stood in his place around the camp, and all the army ran, crying out as they fled. So these are people who have had the upper hand for so long. They've been winning. They had the Israelites so scared that they were afraid to thresh wheat because the Midianites kept taking it and destroying it. They were destroying everything that the Israelites did. And so God came to them and said, I have a strategy. And again, think about being in that situation, because if you if you are that person, I'm guessing that you're not really thinking that blowing trumpets is going to be the winning strategy. I mean, I wouldn't, right? Okay, we're going to blow trumpets and light torches. Hoorah, right? But one of the things that we've learned recently about the way that Trump and his leadership are conducting warfare is by something they call unconventional warfare. So he brought the special forces under the Department of Defense, and he put Ezra Cohen Watnick and Chris Miller over it. And I know that there have been some personnel changes, but I don't think that that has actually had an effect on the plan that's put in place. But this is something that I want you to keep in mind. I want you to think about this story of Gideon, because this is unconventional warfare. And I want you to understand that I really believe that our president and the people closest to him who are solving this problem are engaged in unconventional warfare, and that they have a plan. They have a plan that is known only to very, very few, and that they are under the radar. And so, for example, Gideon and his army struck at night, and they struck when the Midianites least expected it. And they turned confusion on the camp. And that's really important to understand. It's the confusion. So they actually defeated them by putting them in a state of confusion. That's something a lot of people have been praying, right? And so each stood his place in around the camp, and all the army ran, crying out as they fled. And when they blew the 300 trumpets, the Lord set the sword of one against another, even throughout the whole army. And the army fled as far as Bethshittah towards Zerah and the edge of the Abel Meolah by Tabah. And so this is very interesting, because the Midianites started killing each other. What have we seen happening with the left and with the deep state? Did anybody see the tweet that was put out yesterday by Black Lives Matter? I think it was a real tweet. They said it's starting to look like the Democrats used us. That doesn't sound like unity to me. It doesn't sound like they're super happy about that. Did anybody see footage of the Antifa destroying Seattle in spite of the fact that their guy won? Confusion. The enemy is turning their swords against each other. Unconventional warfare. very interesting, isn't it? So I want you to take heart, and I want to go back to what I started with, which was the four C's: coward, corrupt, cornered, or courageous. Which one are you, and where do you fall in this fight? Okay. It's an interesting question to ask. All right, I'm checking on the chat. Okay, there's somebody on the YouTube chat that's spamming the chat. Can you guys put him in timeout? R3, the 12 side of 6, something like that. That just annoys me. Annoys me. Totally off topic. Very distracting. Can you guys take the distractor out, please? Unless he wants to delete his comments. Um, Courageous. Good. Good, 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 good. So as you're coming in on Facebook, if you're just getting here, if you're watching this on replay, please leave comments. Also on YouTube, leave comments on the replay. And I didn't send you a text, Millie, but do you see the person? Um, okay, I just texted you. So, um, yeah, so as you're coming in, I'm just looking at your comments here. Uh, Make sure you share this in Facebook into groups that you belong to. Make sure you're following the page. Make sure you turn on notifications. Also, make sure that on Facebook, yeah. So share it into bigger groups, and then on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, but also hit the thumbs up on YouTube because that's how we drive engagement. And when you come back to the replay, please leave comments, appropriate comments, and replies on the comment section on YouTube, because then YouTube puts our videos in the feed so more people see it. Um, okay. Okay. Somebody on YouTube asked a question, and I think that I was just answering that question: how to deal with the ones around you. Maybe go back and listen again to what I was talking to. Um, oh, hey, Cindy and Tony. Good to talk to you guys. So yeah, we were made to be courageous. I mean, that's our destiny. You know, we're made to walk and to understand uh, who it is that we are, and what our identity is and what our destiny is. And I want to go back to what God said to Gideon in the very beginning of this story, because he said to Gideon, "The Lord is with you, O valiant warrior." And so he actually named Gideon. He actually told Gideon, and he spoke destiny and identity over him. And so even though Gideon did not see himself as courageous, the Lord called him valiant. And so I believe that God is calling those of you who are here to walk into courage and to be the courageous person that He's made you to be. And part of that means you just got to stand your ground. Not everybody's going to understand what you're talking to, and it's not your job to convince them. This is important to know, because when you are coming from a place of faith, like I know absolutely that this is not over, and that there is a plan. I know that, and I've known that from the very first day. But there are people around me who don't understand it, and they don't have the faith that I have. And so I am not going to put energy into arguing with them to try to get them to have the faith that I have. I am going to stand in faith. I'm going to be unwavering, but I have to know when to be quiet and when to just be, change the conversation. Some people just have to see it, you know, and and it's just like everything. They just have to come to that place where they see it. They may start looking at the executive orders that this new person. Um, okay, okay. So the yeah, I think that it's important, for you to just give people the space that they need, because they're not going to all come in and see things the way that you see them. You know, it just it just can't work that way. And so really, really ask God to show you and to give you wisdom about where it is that you're going to devote your energies. And one of the things that I'm seeing right now is that we have a time right now where, if you're following the president is kind of quiet. And I think that's actually a good signal for people to get into a quiet place, because I think that the president is actually resting and getting restoration, so that when he comes back into the fight, that he is renewed. And that's another thing that I believe God wanted me to tell everybody, is that take advantage of this time. um, that take advantage of this time to take advantage of this time to just rest, to get into a place of peace, to read the Word of God. Even if you don't know a lot of your Bible, just pick a few verses that you can stick to. So I would recommend Psalm 91. I would recommend Hebrews 11, verse 1. There's a couple of other verses. People can put them in the chat, but just get a few Bible verses or Psalms that you can just read every single day. And the Word of God is living and active, and it actually restores life to you. And you don't even have to understand all of it. You don't even have to believe all of it. Even the psalmist said, I don't have faith. Help me have more faith. And so, but the power of the Word, it's so powerful that you don't have to understand it all. Just speak it out loud. And it's one of the things that will refresh you, right? Um, Psalm 23, the psalmist says that God prepares a table before us in the presence of our enemies. And so his word is food to us, and it refreshes us. So take the time right now, follow the president's cues, and just get quiet and use this time to refresh and rebuild. That's what a lot of us are doing. Okay. I want to say something about the chat in YouTube right now, because I've got some trolls in there. Anybody in any chat that is shouting in all caps is going to get muted and or banned. So I just want you to be aware of that. I do have some trolls there. And you don't have a right to stay in the chat on someone else's stream and be obnoxious. So that's not your First Amendment right when you're annoying people. Um, just so you know that. Just FYI. Okay, the moderators will um, give you the boot, just so you know. And that includes Facebook and CloutHub as well. Okay, so right, just looking at the chat here, right? Let me check my notes. I'm about to sign off. I will be back tomorrow at 5 o'clock Eastern here on YouTube and Facebook and CloutHub. And I wanted to make sure that everybody shares this. Make sure you're following, turn on notifications. It really is important that you get on CloutHub. I am on some other channels. I'm on Gab under Mary Grace Media. I haven't been active over there, but get on those other channels, because if I get taken off of YouTube or Facebook, you need to be able to find me on those other platforms. And I can't guarantee how long that I will stay on these platforms. And so when I got taken off of Periscope, a lot of people messaged me because they didn't know how to find me. And you missed me for a couple of weeks because every time I said I'm on YouTube and Facebook, you kind of ignored it because you were happy on Periscope. And I get that. I'm just telling you, let this be a lesson so that you don't miss out on another 2 or 3 weeks of Mary Grace Media. Go ahead and set up your account on CloutHub and follow my channel, which is 111. You have to click on channels and then go and subscribe to the channel and set email notifications. You can also sign up for my email list, which is at my website. Go to the website, marygracemedia.com, and wait for the little pop-up, and the pop-up will prompt you to put in your information, and then you can put your information in and you should get a reply. So thank you to all of you guys that are giving us real comments on YouTube and on Facebook. I appreciate that. Last thing is we're just finishing up the first month of transformation with our superfoods, and the great thing is that we're actually going to start. We're gonna roll right back into transformation in February because February is the month for self love and self care. So even if you don't have a partner, even if you're alone, or if you nobody else in your family wants to take part, that's okay. If you have somebody that wants to do a transformation with you, that's awesome. But the reason that I'm telling you this is because I want people to go ahead and get the information from me for superfoods, info@marygracemedia.com. And if you're looking for a way to supercharge and refresh your body, your mind, brain fog, hormonal issues, losing weight, having more energy, whatever it is that you're looking to do, I have had people tell me over and over again, look, I have tried everything to get this weight off. I have tried everything to deal with some of these nagging health issues, and nothing has worked until I've tried your superfoods. I hear that pretty much every day. And so this is really a good time. It's a perfect time to jump into a superfoods reset. So make sure you send me a message, info@marygracemedia.com, because when you do that, you're going to get a voucher to save $100 or more off of a full month supply to get into this reset with us. And so please make sure you do that. Delia has lost, I believe at this point it's 60 pounds. So pretty amazing. And again, it's not just for weight loss. People are dealing with a lot of health issues, and they don't want to be on pharmaceuticals. They don't want to be, subject to the doctor cycle, right? There's a lot that there's a lot that the superfoods can help you with. Jackie on Facebook, depression, anxiety. Yeah, so send me a message. I'll send you the information. Definitely when you get better food into your body, especially organic green superfoods, there's some rebalancing that can help because sometimes those things, you have serotonin issues, you have melatonin issues. There's a lot of imbalances, but I can't make any medical claims, but what I do know is that I've seen tons of testimonies from people who've gotten tremendous benefits from the superfoods. So please send me a message, info@marygracemedia.com. I'll send you the information. I will send you I will send you um I'll send you a voucher so that you can save $100 or more off of your first order. It just depends on how much you order. That's why I say $100 or more. So info@marygracemedia.com. Please send me the information. Uh, oh, Delia, that's awesome. Yeah. And Delia, there's a session tonight on Facebook, by the way. So the cool thing when you start doing this transformation with us is you can get added to our private Telegram group and get support that way. There's also a private Facebook group with over 1,000 members, and you get access to the coaching that we did all through January and the upcoming coaching in February. So this is an incredible value. Give yourself the gift of health coming into February. Practice self care, practice self love. This is part of what I was saying, that, God is bringing us to a place where we're going to follow the lead right now of the president. Get yourself restored and refreshed and healthy in your mind, your body, your spirit, and use this time to reset, because it's not over. We're just taking it's like a pit stop. Okay. So be sure that you position yourself to be as healthy as you can be. All right. So that's it. MaryGraceMedia.com is my website, info@MaryGraceMedia.com to get the information about the superfoods. I will be back tomorrow at 5 Eastern. Thank you to my moderators on YouTube. And just remember, YouTube trolls, your days are numbered. um, I will be back tomorrow, 5 o'clock Eastern. Make sure you bookmark this and turn on your alarm so you won't miss a broadcast. Everybody be blessed and go and read the story of Gideon. Take care.